Good evening and welcome to Chatbox with Sam. Tonight's guest is actress, comedian and writer Dawn Grabowski. Good evening, Dawn. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for the invite. It's lovely to talk to you this evening.
Today I saw Dawn and people in the industry was in a Zoom call. They're called Show Talent Show, and Dawn can share a little bit about that right now.
Oh, it was a wonderful opportunity. I found this group through a colleague of mine who has since become a friend. So that just reinforces the point that regardless of whether you work in the entertainment industry or whether you work in any other industry, it's about connections and who you know. And I was introduced to the group by a comedian and intuitive person that I know by the name of Lindy Baker. And every month, the second Saturday of every month, they have a talent show. And they have been able to deal with SAG after, which is the union for performers, actors, and actresses in the entertainment industry, that if you perform on this show, because it is live and because it is over Zoom, you will have the opportunity to get IMDb credit. So I thought it was a wonderful way to have a chance to perform safely because we're still in the tail end of, hopefully in the tail end of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And it was over Zoom, and I had the wonderful opportunity to do a monologue and to do some sit down comedy because I'm a sit down comic because I'm not qualified to stand, as you can see by the backdrop. And I just thought it was a wonderful opportunity. It was a great group of people. They were all very supportive, and there was industry guests there that were able to give me feedback on my performance. So that was lovely.
Yes, and it was. I felt honoured to be invited by Dawn, and I really did enjoy the monologue and the sit down comedy skit that Dawn performed. It was amazing, very funny, and the improv was awesome too.
Thank you.
If you were to encourage the younger generation, what would be the main focus?
I would encourage the younger generation, or any generation for that matter, to make sure that you find the profession that you absolutely love. Because if you're going to be doing something for a career and for a lifetime, make sure that if you're going to put the hard work into for the training and the classes and everything you're going to need, regardless of whether it's entertainment based or not, I would always say pick something that you love
Mm-hmm.
because we only have one life. I mean, some people could argue that in terms of philosophy, but as far as we know, we only have one life. And I know for myself that I want to have as many adventures and as many wonderful things happen to me as possible. So pick a career or pick an occupation that you think that you're really going to love, because as we learn not only through the time of COVID with everything going on in the pandemic, life really is short.
And how would you inspire the younger generation into this industry? What would you say to them?
In terms of this industry, I would say don't enter the industry unless you cannot imagine doing anything else with your life. And I don't say that to be dramatic. I just say that it's a roller coaster of ride, and the highs are tremendously high in my humble opinion, and the lows are tremendously low. So do not enter into the entertainment industry and this business unless you're a person like myself that cannot imagine doing anything else with their life and needs to be creative to feel like they need to breathe, because otherwise it's the odds, the statistics, the amount of effort that you have to go in to and the amount that you have to do to try to get your foot in the door. In my case, my crutch in the door, my wheelchair in the door, myself in the door,
Right.
regard or even over the Zoom. There's so much effort and circumstances. We were very lucky that you and I met through
Yes.
a wonderful colleague and friend, Danny. But the reality is that was through connections of knowing Danny and I knowing each other for years, and
Mm-hmm.
him thinking that I'm the right fit for your brand, for your show. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
honored that somebody would say, hey, think of her. But what I'm saying is, I think the younger generation sometimes has a misconception that, with all the social media, if I just put something on social media and it goes viral, I'll automatically get a reality TV show. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but what I'm saying is, that it's if you have that opportunity, regardless of whether you get it through a viral video, you need to make sure that you're trained and you're ready and you're professional and you know what you need to know before you get on that set to do a crew job, an acting job, a writing job, whatever it is, because it's very hard to get in, and then your calling card is, once you get there, you got to keep
Right.
doing good work, because there's
Mm.
so many people out there and there's so much of a competition.
Absolutely. Um, and that's very good sound advice. Nothing's easy and you have to really work hard at it. Thank you very much for that answer. And
You're welcome.
thank you. What inspired you into this career within the industry?
I have just always loved acting, and I knew from the age of 6 years old. My parents happened to take me to my first Broadway play. I'm originally from back east, the tri state area, in New Jersey, and I grew up in Florida. But they took me to my very first Broadway show when I was 6 years old. And there happened to be kids on the stage. And I was like, that looks like fun. I want to do that. And so um, everyone said it was a phase and I would grow out of the phase. And I never grew out of the phase. What can I say? Um, and everything that I've started, my first passion has always been acting. And then whatever I've done from that point on, from a creativity point of standpoint, is kind of evolved out of the desire and the wanting to get paid, to either create paid work for myself, where I could get a sponsor or get hired by a company, a production company, a studio, etc. So, and if anyone wants to know more of my early journey, I would recommend that they go to watch my short film, which was done in conjunction with the Easter Seals Film Challenge. It's called Laughter, Love, Persistence, Passion, the Don Grabowski story. And even though it's about my creative journey in terms of comedy and why I love comedy so much, it's not that much of an investment in your time, because it's a short, so it's 5 minutes and 39 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and you have your own website, which will be coming up on the screen now. And you
Yes.
can click on Dawn's website, and she has reels on there.
And then we'll take you to, and that's one of the projects, that the project I just mentioned is listed under the project page.
Do take a look at that website, and then watch her reels, because Dawn is a very funny lady, and she will make you laugh. So
And cry depending on which, and cry depending on which
yes,
project you click on.
yes, there's quite a few projects on there, and there's
Yes.
happy, sad, and she's an actress, so, and an amazing one. You say you're a sit-down comedian. Would you like to tell the audience how you want to be defined as a human being, an actress, a comedian? Um, your talent,
Well,
your talent is what it is because of the person you are, and not for your disability. Would you like to talk a little bit about that to the audience?
yes, absolutely. Well, I believe that the only thing that should be labeled are jars and not people. I am defined in the industry as a performer with a disability, and in the world as a person with a disability. I have spastic cerebral palsy. I was born with it. I weighed 3 pounds and an ounce when I was born. They weren't sure I was going to survive. So as a result, I use crutches and/or a wheelchair on a daily basis. But as I say on my website, and as I have said in my bio and other places, I just think it's you know, part of my being. It's part of the fact that I happen to have brown hair at the moment and hopefully a nice smile. I don't let it define me.
I could see how you wouldn't let a disability to define you. I mean, a great example, Christopher Reeve. He fell off a horse and was completely disabled, and he still went into films.
Yeah, I had the great pleasure of knowing Christopher Reeve, Chris, and he was just an amazing man, and he was able to turn his life circumstances into positivity for a whole generation and a whole group of people. I mean, the last 10 years of his life, I believe I have the statistic right. I might be wrong on it, but I believe that during the last 10 years of his life, he raised $100 million for spinal cord injury. And he put the face to people with disabilities, because the reality was, and it's terrible to say it like this, but when they couldn't put Superman back together again, that's when the world started caring about people with disabilities a little bit more. And he put the face to people with disabilities. Because that, I often say, as somebody that knew him, I used to think that Superman was a character that he played. But after meeting him and knowing him briefly, because I'm the really proud recipient of the Christopher Reeve Acting Scholarship, after Chris became injured, he created a scholarship competition for performers with disabilities, because he realized that there were performers with disabilities like myself that had a great passion and love for acting, and that he wanted to make a difference in the industry. So the one year I was a finalist, and the following year I was a winner. And with the scholarship money, I was able to create my first project, Always Going Up, which was my one-person autobiographical play. But that just shows you, no matter what life throws at you, you have a choice to deal with the cards that you're dealt, for lack of better words, and try to come from it from a positive point of view as much as possible. Or, you could be bitter and angry the rest of your life. What are you going to choose?
That's amazing. Thank you very much for sharing that, Dawn. Thank you very much. So true.
And I have to just add in one little thing real quick. My feature film, Dangerous Perceptions, and my web series, Quest, which can be found, it's called Quest, and on YouTube, questtheseries.com. Both the web series and the feature film are dedicated to Christopher Reeve and John Ritter, who are two amazingly huge influences in my life. And during the premiere of the movie, of the feature, we raised money for both those charities. So I was happy. That was my small way of saying thank you for all the things that they did for me, because they really shaped who I am, not only as an artist, but as a person, because they were incredible people that were gone way too soon, in my humble opinion.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. And God bless them. And God bless you too. So
it may be harder to get around in the world from a logistical standpoint, but I mean, I still go for my dreams. I still go for my goals. I still go for the things that I want to do in my life, because as we talked about earlier, as far as we know, we could argue and have another different episode altogether, but this is the only life that we're aware that we're getting. So I want to make sure that I have as much fun and do as many wonderful things as I can. I call myself a sit-down comic because I'm not qualified to stand, because and that's kind of my log line and my tag for myself, because I'm always on crutches or in a wheelchair. That's the only way that I can get around if you want me to move around in the world. Unless you want me to just sit in a seat and not move. So that's why I say I'm not qualified to stand. So when I go up on stage, the club owners know to have a chair for me there, and to readjust the mic to make it, the level of the chair. And you just, I hope that not only my jokes, but I hope that my artistic endeavors and my acting, I hope that it always comes from a place of strength.
Right.
Because that is really important to me. I never want somebody to look at me and pity me just because I'm in a body that is considered unusual or unique, but not, by not only Hollywood standards, but sometimes the world standards.
Right.
But the reality is, we're all different sizes, we're all different shapes, we're all different colors. We are, hopefully more alike than we are different, and the things, and yes, people are different, and hopefully we can embrace the different challenges and the different parts of everybody, because I think that's what makes the world so unique.
And that's what my show's about. How we're familiar yet uniquely different. Acceptance is very humble of anyone, even if it's of a political view, should I say. Um, you know, don't condemn or criticize. Just understand that we've all got different views, and
Try to understand it
try.
even
Yes,
if you don't agree with it.
that's right. I mean, it's okay if you don't agree with it, but there's a humble way of dealing with it. There's a humble way of dealing with someone's difference of opinion or lifestyle. So just let's be kind to each other. So, and and when it comes to disabilities or something, we're all a package, right? But don't judge someone by a package, whether they're stunningly beautiful or whether they have a disability or whether they don't. There's a package. What's beautiful is what's on the inside, the mind and the soul, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what we should look inside a person instead of out. Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to be, because regardless of whether it's Hollywood or somewhere else in the country or the world for that matter, the reality is we're all going to get older if we're lucky enough to get older. And I know
Right.
people complain about getting older, but I mean, compared to the alternative, we all want to get very old and
Yeah.
stick around. So, I mean, looks are going to fade. There's always going to be somebody younger,
Right.
somebody more handsome, somebody more prettier, more attractive than you, because that's just the nature of the world
Right.
and
Yes.
how the human race kind of works. So you really need to work on yourself and try to see beyond that, what is that saying? Beauty is more than skin deep.
Absolutely. Yes. I agree 100%. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing your thoughts regarding that, Dawn. I really appreciate it, and I know many people will be heartfelt by your thoughts, because they're honest and they're from your heart. So, well, out of all the charities you could choose from, which one would you advocate for the most and why?
That's so hard, because I think there is so much of a need out there, and I think we as human beings need to be taking better care of each other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that anybody in this country or in this world should be without a home if they choose not to be, like
Right.
personal, unless they have a personal preference not to have a place to live. And I don't think anybody in this country or in this world should be hungry. So there are many organizations, but one of the organizations that I know of, there's a nonprofit called Lunch on Me, and it's a wonderful nonprofit that helps feed underrepresented communities healthy plant-based foods, and not only gives them a meal, but tries to get them the some of the spiritual things that you need for your soul in your mind, like yoga and counseling if you're living on the street and things like that. So that's Lunch on Me, and their hashtag is Love Without Reason. And they have fed me in the past, and they're a really wonderful organization. I'm fortunate enough that I'm not homeless, but they have helped me out in terms of getting me groceries when I needed. I
Oh,
have used their services before.
yes. Bless them. Pennies make pounds. You don't have to have a lot of money to donate. Even if you donate $1, that dollar can go towards feeding the homeless. And yes, the homeless are one of human beings, and they're not always there by choice. It's our circumstances and things that happen in life, like veterans. There's a lot of veterans that are homeless. Do you think they choose that? I don't think so. Just that, there something happened and that's their life circumstance. And if you could, and no one should go hungry. No one. And if we all gave just a little bit, what a huge difference that would make. So please
You know,
donate.
yes, please donate. One of the things that I often say in some of my speeches and some of um, my comedy presentations is, to give you an example, I would say something to the effect of, you know, as a person with a disability, I'm the only minority group that somebody can join at any time, at any given time, at any given moment. It doesn't matter what your
Right,
creed, what your color, what your
right,
sexual orientation is. And I bring that up for a reason
mm-hmm.
because basically it only takes one bad day or
Right,
one, losing your job or
right,
something along that for you to be in circumstances that you may never have thought you were in.
right.
And now with the pandemic, I think it's really come to the forefront and been highlighted. And I bring that up because we just talked about the homeless.
Mm-hmm.
There are, some of the homeless people, as I have learned through my interactions with this particular organizations, are people that were in the foster system that were never adopted out, and they spent
Oh,
their whole lives on the street. So but I bring the point up that, one bad day and you could be in my situation, you could be in their situation.
mm,
So, that's why I say try not to judge and try to understand, because I don't think anybody would consciously pick to be on the street and not have a place to live.
right.
At least a majority of them. So let's put it that way.
I know, I know. And unfortunately, there are a few people that, mind you, if they're not working, they're still struggling. They do go out
Yeah.
there and,
And even if you are working, it's struggling. It's expensive to live in a city, and
especially
prices are
California.
going up. Yeah, California is very expensive.
Yes, very. I know.
Are you not in the financial position to donate? Maybe you can call up an organization that you like in your neighborhood and say, hey, can I help volunteer or something? There's always a need somewhere. And, one little step or one kind deed could make the big difference in somebody's world.
Absolutely. Screen. Well, thank you for that answer, Dawn. And
You're
hopefully
welcome.
people will listen and hear from here.
Yeah.
Get into the heart of the matter. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you're 100% correct. How do you feel about what has transpired since COVID-19, and how did it affect you in the industry?
Oh my goodness. Well, COVID has been horrible. Let's be honest about it. We've lost good people,
Mm-hmm.
and I will never be okay with somebody being sick or somebody dying or somebody being murdered, because obviously there's a lot going on in the world right now. Um, in terms of the positive, if we can say the positive out of COVID, I would like to think that we're all caring about each other more as human beings, and that opportunities like this, being able to talk to you, I'm very appreciative, not only of for your show, but of technology, because, if we were in a different time, it would be a whole, can you imagine being isolated without the technology that we've
I
had?
know.
That would be just terrible. In terms of how it affected me in the industry, it's kind of interesting because I feel like I've worked more during the pandemic than I have in the last couple of years. I'm fully vaccinated now, but prior to the vaccine coming out, I'm not going to lie, I didn't really like getting the COVID test, but the COVID test was a very positive experience for me because it meant I was working. Because
Right.
with the CDC guidelines and the entertainment guidelines, that was something that was quite amazing. I was very fortunate, even though I was sheltering at home by myself. I had the technology and was able to talk to family and friends, even though they were on the other side of the country. And I was able to work on two print job as well as To Tell the Truth, which is a television show. So it was a really wonderful experience for me. It was strange to, with all the protocols in place, not to be able to necessarily hang out on the set like I normally do when it's not my scene or not my part, and to go back to an empty dressing room, and sit there by myself. That was a little, something that I'm not used to, and have, the food be brought to you because it had to be packaged in such a way, and those changes. But I hope that when we're finally over this pandemic, because I feel like I'm hoping that we're making progress. When we're finally over this pandemic, we won't forget that we are all more similar than we are different, and we're all human beings, and we need help once in a while, because that's what the humanity's about.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And I know the SAG are very, in the industry, they are very strict. They are very strict.
I felt very safe on set.
Yeah, they test regularly, and you're doing self-tapes instead of in-person auditions more. So, yeah, they are very strict protocol. So, I
felt extremely safe on set. I felt like it was actually safer than anywhere that I had to go during the pandemic, because there were so many rules, and they were tracking where you were going, and who was where at what time. So God forbid if anything did happen, they would be able to trace it back and everything. And this has changed our humanity and our world. And I never thought that my apartment would become my home studio, and I would have to learn how to self-tape and ring lights and editing and booms and sticking my head in a box to get a voiceover audition done because I needed the quiet. There's been some very odd things that have happened during the pandemic, but I think overall I have survived really well. Knock on wood, I'm still happy, healthy, and I had no problem staying at home. I didn't like the reason why I had to stay at home. I didn't like the fact that there was a pandemic going on. But I think also as a person with a disability, I've learned to adapt. Yes. And I've learned to make things work and, so to speak, go with the flow more than the average person. And I was very lucky because I was sheltering at home, but I liked the person I was sheltering with. I liked myself. So I didn't have, I know some people, that had a terrible time sheltering at home because, they realized that they were in a bad marriage before it started and they didn't do anything about it. And then they're stuck with the person, sheltered at home, so I was very lucky. I have a wonderful apartment. I like myself. I've been trying to be very careful. So, I'm not used to, it's been a little technologically challenging because I'm not a tech person. So having to learn how to self-tape and having to learn how to do an audition over Zoom or have a reader over Zoom, that's been quite challenging, but I'm getting better every day at it.
That's awesome. I'm glad you are. So, is there any role that you've played where you could identify with your own personality?
I don't think there was any one specific role that I would be able to identify my personality with, but there were aspects in some of the roles that I've played. For example, I was really thrilled with my role on SWAT, which is the CBS drama that's, can't believe it, it's going into season number 5 now, I believe. But I mean, that was really a thrilling opportunity, not just to book a job on a new series, but the fact that they were willing to hire me because I was talented, and it had nothing to do with the character was not even written as a person with a disability. So the fact that they were able to see me and see my talent, that was
Right.
very exciting to me, because that leaves me hopeful that the industry is changing.
Right.
Um, by the same token, when I was on To Tell the Truth, the scenario was something I could relate to, in the sense that, I love movies, and that was the subject matter of the episode. So there's lots of opportunities on ER. When I
Mm-hmm.
did ER several years ago before it went off the air, um, I could relate to the fact that the person was picking on me and insulting me, but it had very little to. Yes, it was because of my disability, but by the same token, it was a Don Rickles kind of character. And for your younger generation, if they don't know who Don Rickles is, they definitely need to Google it. But he was definitely, it was that type of, it wasn't played by him, but it was that type of character
Right.
that was like insulting. So it wouldn't have mattered if I had a disability, or if I was African American, or if I was, 40 times larger than what I am in terms of my body size. He was that kind of character that he
Right.
would pick on you. So I think one of the reasons why I started creating my own content was because I wasn't getting as much of an opportunity, and wasn't able to star in the kinds of roles that I really wanted to participate in. So by creating my own content, if anyone really wants to know about Don Grabowski and they don't know me, if you look at my work, you'll get a really strong sense about what's important to me and what the hobbies and the things that I love, because it's, you know, they always, when I first started taking writing classes, they always said, write what you know. So I would write about the television shows that I loved and the actors that I loved. And that's how I created, began to create my first project when I came to
Mm-hmm.
California and Hollywood, which was my autobiographical one woman show, Always Going Up. Because, you write what you know. I loved television as a child. I
Mm-hmm.
had trouble fitting in as a child. So those characters on television were my friends, because I didn't have any neighborhood kids that wanted to play with me. So
Oh.
it's like you learn, if you want to know more about me and more about my personality, I think a good place to start is my work that
Oh.
I've done.
And scrolling above, as you see, is Dawn Grabowski's website. Please go check it out. There is a comedy skit on there that's hilarious, um, and some reels and lots of information regarding Dawn and her life. So please check Dawn's website out. You will really enjoy it. I know I
Lots of
did.
projects, lots of web series.
Yes,
You can sit down with your Coca-Cola or your cup of coffee and be there for a couple hours if you wanted to.
or even hot chocolate over Christmas because
Yes, absolutely.
So yes, is there anything that no one has asked you in an interview that you would have liked them to ask you?
Oh my goodness, that's such a good question.
Everybody
I,
gets stumped on it.
I have to think about that.
You do? It's a trick question.
I don't know. I think most people know that I love what I do and have great passion for what I do.
Hmm.
And anyone that talks to me knows that I want to be an actor and I want to be working in the entertainment industry in some capacity, whether it be acting, writing, content creating, voiceover work, filmmaking, speaking. There are just so many things I want to do in the world. And I hope that I'll have opportunities to be showcased more in mainstream projects. It's 2021. I think it's time. We're almost at 2022. I think it's time that we see more of what the world is really like, as opposed to just attractive people who happen to be a little talented or a
Right.
lot talented, depending on the person. But that is just a remarkable question. I don't know. I would have to go back and say, I would have to define it. I would throw it back on the interviewer and say, in what area of my life are you talking about? work life? Are you talking about my personal life? Are you talking about, what's a fun thing I want to do next summer? I mean, there's so many. I mean, the mind is just, the wheels are turning in
Yes,
my
me
head
too.
right
I
now.
mean, I'd probably base it more towards work, you know.
So something that they have never asked me that I wish that they would. You know what? I really hope that when all is said and done, when I retire or when I die or whatever, I hope that people will say that, remember that I was talented and loved what I did as an actor and as a comic and with my content creation and my other hats that I wore. Because, as you know, in this industry and in this world, if you want to be relevant, you have to, the more skills that you have, the better off you are to
Right.
be more marketable. The more tools you have to put in your figurative toolbox, the better off you'll be. But I think my main thing that I would love is, to talk about how talented and how much I loved what I did, and hopefully that I was a nice person. And then the disability and the fact that I move differently than some of the people in the world, that would be secondary or down on the list. I really kind of get annoyed with people when that's the first thing that is acknowledged about me, because the reality is that I've trained very hard
Mm-hmm.
to, I have a degree, I've gone to acting class, I've made a lot of sacrifices living away from family and friends, so it's not just a flash in the pan for me to be here.
Right. A lot of hard work and dedication and heart has gone into it because you wanted to.
Yeah.
You wanted this. So you continued on and didn't give up. And that's admirable within itself, just doing that. A lot of people give up.
Yeah.
And, they just, because it is hard work and disheartening. I mean,
Or they settle in life. They learn
yes,
how to settle because they want the nicer house or the nicer car, and they want the status, and it's a little harder. And I'm gonna be one of those people that I'm never gonna, you know I'm not gonna lie. There are days that I want to crash on the couch and find a good streaming service,
right,
Netflix, Amazon, Disney,
right,
whatever. I want to do I want to do one of their shows. I want to have a streaming show of my own on there. But the point is, it doesn't matter what the platform is. There are some days that you need some downtime, and you have to find that work-life balance. But overall, I'm a person that is constantly creating and constantly being proactive and moving and grooving, and that's not very typical, I'm finding, the older
we,
I get.
oh, well, courage is contagious. And you got that courage from your soul, and you did this, and you're still doing it. So, congratulations
Thank you.
on having the courage to go out and say, I can, as a
I,
regular human being, because that's exactly what you've done, and that's what you are doing.
I
So,
can, I
be
am, and I
proud of you.
will.
You are, and you be proud of you for doing
And
that.
I will
Because,
continue to do so.
absolutely, because the industry's not easy to be in. Not
Yes.
easy at all. So, I mean, congratulations. So carry on,
Thank
and we're
you.
gonna put you out there, and everyone's gonna watch the show,
Yes.
and it's gonna be awesome. I'm glad you're on season 2. I'm very glad, and very honoured to interview you. Actually, so I'm honoured.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and it was lovely to talk to you.
I appreciate you being here. Dawn has an Instagram and a Twitter and a
I
Facebook
have an
page.
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and by the time this airs, I'll probably be on TikTok a little bit. And then I also have my web series,
And
my
please take.
IMDb page. So it's always my name. So it's either Dawn Grabowski or Grabowski Dawn, depending on the platform. So DAWN, G as in George, RAB as in boy, OWSKI. Grab Ski and stick it together. Dawn Grabowski and DawnGrabowski.com. So
There you go. I love the
thank,
name.
okay.
Dawn, thank you so much for your time and appearing on Chatbox with Sam. I know the audience is not just going to be inspired, but they're going to enjoy listening to this interview. So
Oh,
it's
thank
going
you
to
very
be
much.
enjoyable and inspiring. So thank you, Dawn. And
Thank you.
oh, bye everyone.
Bye, everyone.